When was the last time you felt in control of your business finances? Expenses tracked, invoices sent, taxes ready. That's where Found comes in. Found brings your banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes together in one simple app. Manage expenses, invoice clients, send payments, and prep for tax time right where you bank. Join the hundreds of thousands who have already streamlined their finances with Found. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's FOUND.com. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC.
Friends, welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Coming up on this episode, I've got a lot of great stuff for you, and a lot of it has to do with homes, building homes. Big announcement yesterday from the Prime Minister, Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, and Olivia Chow, the Mayor of Toronto. So on this episode of the pod, you're going to hear their news conference, and it covered a whole wide range of things, so I hope you can stick around for that. Before I get too far into it, though, I just want to say good luck and Godspeed to Jeremy Hansen and the rest of the Artemis II crew. This is a pretty historic thing that we are about to experience. We're going to the dark side of the moon. Tomorrow, Artemis II, scheduled to blast off. It's going to leave from Florida. It's going to go up into space. It's going to slingshot around the Earth. Then it's going to head towards the moon. It's going to get to the moon, circle around, and slingshot back towards the Earth. 10-day mission in total. This is the furthest that we have ever traveled into space. And there's a Canadian on this mission. I think this is amazing. I know that space isn't everybody's jam, but I think that this is really, really neat. The fact that we can do it, the fact that we are doing it, and this is just the beginning. After this mission goes well, and there's no reason to think it won't, the countdown clock is on for NASA. They're getting ready to go. After this is done, the next mission is to land on the moon. After that, we're going to set up a base on the moon. That's important. We need a base on the moon, and I'll tell you why. If we're going to start exploring deep space, we need somewhere off of Earth that we can store fuel, because once you get out of Earth's gravity, you've got to go somewhere, and the moon is a perfectly good stopover. It's like an en route, if you will. Those are the service centers along the side of the highway in Ontario. You can stop in, fuel up, and then continue on with your journey. I think that this is just the beginning of something amazing, and I am just over the moon happy for the folks over at NASA and the crew of the Artemis II mission. Now, speaking of fuel, we have a bit of an issue here on Earth in that, well, there's a lot of fuel over in the Middle East, oil in particular, and it's not moving anywhere because Iran is not letting that oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. Well, this is a problem. This morning, an interesting social media post from the president. Donald Trump says, all of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. Number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. You have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you were not there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. President DJT. Well. That's an interesting posture from the Americans. If the UK doesn't want to get involved and they still need oil, either buy it from America or go to the Strait of Hormuz and get it yourself. That is an interesting position. But I'm also thinking about our gas prices. I've said it before. I think everybody knows at this point. We have the third most oil reserves in the world here in Canada, and we're paying some of the highest prices. So far, Slovenia, Serbia, Italy, Australia, Spain, Ireland, Portugal, and many more have cut the taxes on gas because they realize the gas is getting too unaffordable for regular people. That's going to create inflation. That's going to mean somebody is going to want to raise interest rates. It's just not good overall. We got to get the price down until the market stabilizes again. I want to bring in Franco Terrazzano from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I'm a big fan of Franco and the work that they do at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation because they are on our side. They point out 45 cents a liter of gas in Canada right now is tax. Think about that. There are parts of Canada that are paying just under $2 a liter, and 45 cents a liter of that is tax. We got to do something about this. We've got to get rid of it. But I don't know if the will is there in Ottawa. It might sound nice to take the gas tax off, but eventually they'll have to put it back on. And I don't think any of these politicians wants to be the one who puts the tax back on gas. Well, Franco is calling out those politicians because tomorrow we get a brand new month. And that means there's going to be pay increases in Ottawa.
Prime Minister Mark Carney needs to cancel the upcoming politician pay raise and tax hike. Yes, in a couple days, on April 1, all members of Parliament right behind me, they're going to be stuffing their pockets with more of your money, another pay raise. On the very same day, the federal government is going to be making your beer, your wine, your spirits more expensive with another tax increase. It's a cruel April Fool's joke on you, dear taxpayer, where politicians take more money from you and stuff more money in their own pockets. Let's talk about that alcohol tax hike. Okay, every time you go to the pub, you get a great Canadian beer. Well, about half the price you pay is already taxed. The federal alcohol tax that is going up again is going to make your life more expensive, and it's going to hurt Canadian breweries, restaurants, distilleries, and the Canadian workers that work in those Canadian businesses. And by the way, it's an undemocratic tax hike. The federal government is raising the tax again without a vote in Parliament. That is wrong. And if these politicians think you aren't paying enough tax, they should at least have the spine to vote on the tax increase. Now, while they take more money from you, they're putting more money in their own pockets. Another pay raise for MPs whose base salary is already about $210,000. Now, all members of Parliament should be speaking out against this raise. They don't deserve it. About 80% of Canadians oppose the MP pay raise. This automatic pay raise culture in Ottawa needs to stop. Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney, he could end the MP pay raise and the tax hike now. He needs to do it because Canadians are fed up with taxes that make our life more expensive, and we're fed up with politicians who don't deserve it stuffing more money into their own pockets.
Hear, hear, right? I think we can all agree. These MPs giving themselves a raise while Canadians struggle is completely tone deaf and wildly inappropriate. Do you remember when you used to get a raise for a job well done? Can anybody point to any part of the government where we can say, job well done? There might be a few ministers. There might be a few ministries where we can say, yeah, they're doing a good job. They've probably earned a raise. But the vast majority of these people do not deserve one, and they're getting one at the same time as alcohol taxes go up and so many other expenses go up. Renewing a passport is going to cost you more as of tomorrow. There's all kinds of different examples. If you need alcohol for the Easter weekend, you're going to want to grab it today because as of tomorrow, it's going to be more expensive. I thought that was a great message from Franco and the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Now, friends, let's jump into it. Here is a little bit of the announcement yesterday in Toronto. Prime Minister Mark Carney.
This is the first project as part of the city's Housing Now program. As I say, 725 purpose-built rental homes, as Andrew just said, over 200 affordable units. A property that will generate zero carbon, and like much of the progress we're announcing today, and we're going to announce a lot today, it's a result of a true partnership between the public and private sectors, from CMHC to Tricon and Kilmer as the home builders and the city and the province. Now, almost exactly a year ago today, not far from here in Vaughan, it was the first week of the election campaign. And I announced our housing plan, the plan we would put in place if we were to be honored by Canadians to be elected.
Do you recall that? Yes, he did announce that plan. The plan was for like millions of houses. And there's nothing like that happening. In fact, it is so bad. Housing starts have actually gone down, just so you know. Things are so bad right now that not only have they had to take the HST off the purchase price of a new build, Now they're about to announce they're scrapping or cutting substantially builder development fees. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what that means, when a developer says, hey, I want to build a subdivision in your community, or I want to build a condo tower in the community. Well, the community has some expense as well. They've got to put in sewers for that new area. There's got to be hydro connections. There's got to be roads built and all sorts of stuff. So the city charges the developer some money for that. And the developers are saying those fees have gone crazy in the last little while. And that's part of the reason that they're not building houses the way everyone thought they would. So getting rid of the development charges is probably a good thing, especially if the cities are charging way more than they need to. But how did things get this bad? It's been a year, and just now they're realizing nothing we said is happening, nothing we said has worked. We're gonna have to do more. And this one, friends, is gonna cost a lot of money.
So in our first week as government, we eliminated the GST on first-time home buyers on new homes up to $1 million, saving Canadians up to $50,000. In September, we launched Build Canada Homes to turbocharge housing construction and also to help catalyze an entirely new housing industry. Since then, we have committed to supporting in specific projects nearly 10,000 homes through 12 partnerships across the country. Projects worth over 1,200 units are already breaking ground the next 3 months. We're also building local infrastructure, crucial element of today's announcement. Local infrastructure through new hospitals, transit, wastewater systems. We have a $51 billion Build Communities Strong Fund. And last week, and this is directly relevant to today's announcement, we tabled legislation which will unlock $1.7 billion in federal funds to help provinces and territories lower the cost of home building.
So far, he's got like $53 billion on the table here. It is a lot. And in case you're wondering, those were protesters screaming in the background, and you could hear them pretty well at this media avail. I'm going to skip out on the rest of the Prime Minister here. I don't think there's much else worthwhile that he said until we get to the question and answer period. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Now let's hear the perspective of Ontario Premier Doug Ford about this special announcement.
We're cutting red tape and keeping taxes and fees low to save businesses and families $12 billion each and every single year. That includes $1.1 billion tax cut for small businesses that we announced in last week's budget. Oh, Chris. I almost drank your water. Did you have a sip of that?
I didn't touch it.
Okay, I'll take a sip. This isn't going to turn me into a liberal, is it? I've already been accused of being a liberal. Okay, sir. Well, they do accuse me. But anyways.
Yes, a lot of people do. Premier Doug Ford there, almost drinking out of the Prime Minister's drinking glass. Little comment. Yeah, that got him some shares on social media. It's not going to turn me into a liberal, is it? I mean, the jokes write themselves, right? I don't even need to say it. You're all thinking it. Everybody's thinking it. I don't even need to say it. Don't worry, Doug, it's not going to turn you into a liberal. How about that? I noted there he did call the Prime Minister sir. I don't know if that happens behind closed doors or if they're like Mark and Doug or what the deal is, but interesting posture there. Premier Ford so far talking a little bit about what the money's going to get used for and also clearly rattled by the protesters, which are screaming pretty loudly here. Just a little bit more of Doug Ford.
Here we go. Sorry, folks. That's more than 30% reduction, which will save more than 375,000 small business, an average of $5,000 annually. So they can invest that money back into their businesses and create more jobs and economic opportunity. We're investing more than ever in our $236 billion plan to build, which is the largest plan of its kind in Canadian history.
$236 billion to build houses which people are supposed to buy. I don't understand how we're spending $236 billion. I need somebody to explain this plan to me because I don't get it. Basically, the builders weren't building for a myriad of reasons. not the least of which are interest rates. And I notice nobody is talking about that. But the builders have to take on some debt when they're building. And with interest rates this high, they're just not interested in doing it. There's also a ton of volatility in the housing market right now. Hey, question, if we really did stop that mass immigration that was coming into Canada for a while there, why do we need all these houses? Good questions. I know. I don't really understand it here other than we've taken the HST off of new home purchases. Okay, that's great. Anytime the government is charging less tax, that's good. That costs everybody a lot of money, though, and only benefits the people who are buying. But nonetheless, I suppose they want to get the housing market going. The province and the federal government teaming up to take on those development charges for the municipalities, well, that's a totally different story. That's a lot. I don't know if these municipalities need to charge as much as they have been charging, but either way, it's a heck of a lot of money to spend here. And I don't understand what the end result is, because I would like to think that this is for people who don't necessarily have the ability to save up a massive amount of money for a down payment. So this is going to help people get into the market. That's what I would like to think. It's to bring down cost and help people get into the housing market. I'm not so sure, though. There's a lot of people, right or wrong, that believe this is actually just a gift to the builders. These two here, Doug Ford and Mark Carney, have got to show some progress, at least anything, to say that something is happening and that their promises weren't a complete lie. So they're willing to take on billions and billions and billions in expense with taxpayer money, hoping that these homes get built and hoping that these developers pass on the savings to the end user. Will they? Or will they just bank that money? Is this actually going to make home ownership any more attainable for the average person? Or is this just to help out builders who have made investments that didn't turn out to be good ones? They've got unsold inventory that they've got to unload. And to try and get them building at low cost and low risk to them, so that they can continue making profit without a lot of the other overhead. It really is hard to see how this is not a gift to the builders, even if that wasn't the intention. The Q&A will bring up more of Premier Ford and Prime Minister Carney. Just quickly here, she makes me laugh. She's a funny little person. This is Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow.
And when you see cranes in the sky at construction sites across Toronto, like this one here, city incentives supported by the federal and the provincial government make that possible. We've also transformed how fast we approve housing. For decades, Toronto was slower than almost anywhere else. Now, through cutting red tape, our projects are approved 80% faster. From 3.5 years down to about 8 months. And by the end of this year, with the help of advanced technology, we're going to cut that again by 50%. We will be fastest in Canada, maybe even in North America.
Imagine that. Imagine that. It was taking 3.5 years. A builder says to Toronto, we want to build a subdivision in this neighborhood. 3.5 years to get approval. Well, now they've got it down to 8 months, and they're promising they can cut that in half down to 4 months. 4 months is probably a reasonable amount of time to get a big subdivision or condo tower approved. What the hell were they doing for 3.5 years? No wonder we're so far behind. That's crazy. There's not a lot of homes being built. I think everybody understands that. You're not driving around seeing massive subdivisions popping up, which, if I'm being honest, I think is what the vast majority of people want to see. They want to see subdivision homes in nice neighborhoods, and they want to be able to get a detached or a semi or what have you at a reasonable price. That's what people, I think, are looking for. But these builders, under the direction of then Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford, went hog wild building condos anywhere they could get a little bit of land, and now they've got a lot of condos left over. Well, now in comes two levels of government to try and bail them out. And for all the money they're spending, I'm just wondering, is this actually going to save regular middle-class Canadians any money? Is it going to make it easier for them to get into the housing market? Because frankly, I don't know that it will. You know, I could very easily see these builders hanging on to that extra money that they're saving on those development charges. You know, if they save $200,000 in development charges, are they going to pass on those $200,000 to you, the end buyer? I don't know that they will. It just doesn't seem plausible to me after what they've been through. But we'll find out. I mean, hey, the story is not done being written yet. Just seems like we're spending a hell of a lot of money on something that we don't have any guarantees on. Let's get to the Q&A now, because there is a lot of territory covered in here.
Prime Minister Robert Benzie, the Toronto Star. I just wanted to ask you, do you support Premier Doug Ford's vision for the Billy Bishop Toronto Centre Airport, the expansion of that airport that would allow jets to land? We haven't really heard a clear statement from you or from your government yet on that.
Well, thank you for the question, Robert, and hopefully you can hear me. It's a shared jurisdiction, and we're engaged in discussions with the province of Ontario. Understand the vision. We take note. It's a very interesting vision, big possibilities there. So we have some component of responsibility there, and we're working for it. What we've been working clearly on in the last few weeks is today's announcement, which rightly described by the Premier, by the Mayor, by myself as historic. The scale of what we're announcing truly is a game changer for the housing market here in Toronto, across Ontario. We'll move on to the next things right away. Thank you.
Okay, so he says it's an interesting vision to expand the Toronto Island Airport. They're going to have to fill it in and pave it over and extend the runway so that they can put jets in. I didn't hear the Prime Minister say that's a good idea. I did not hear the Prime Minister say we need that. He just said it's an interesting vision. By the way, don't worry too much about this. It is going to take so long to get this project done. We're talking years and years and years down the line. If you're one of the people who thinks this is not a good idea, don't worry about it. It'll be a long time before it's done, and you're not going to see a ton of jets like the ones that would land at international airports across Canada. You're not going to see them landing at the Toronto Island Airport. It's going to be all private jets. This island airport expansion is not about getting people from Timmins to Toronto faster, or getting people from Windsor or London to Toronto faster, or Ottawa to Toronto faster. That's not what it's for. This is for the convenience of the 1% who have to pay very expensive fees to land and refuel at Pearson Airport, and then they have to sit in traffic for 45 minutes to an hour just to get to their meeting downtown. This is all going to be private jets. For the most part, this airport is going to get a lot of business from private individuals that are very, very wealthy and own private jets. There's not going to be a whole ton of WestJet and Air Canada and Porter jets landing there, ferrying passengers all over the place. If you thought, well, that'll be great, I can go do my Caribbean vacation from the Toronto Island Airport. Don't hold your breath. I mean, I don't think that that's going to happen. It's certainly not anytime soon anyway. But that's the comment on the jets at the Toronto Island Airport expansion. So far, kind of a non-answer from the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Aidan Schmandy from Toronto today. So just given that answer, which isn't exactly definitive one way or another, do you think the Premier's maybe jumping the gun a little bit on all the moves that he's made to take the airport lands from the city? Like, is this a little premature given?
Well, the Premier can speak for himself, obviously, and will. But it's a tripartite responsibility. If the city and the province consolidates their responsibilities, then there's an efficiency that comes there, and we deal directly with the province. And just to be clear, it's something that's moving. The federal government's now getting involved, but we're not going to make a premature determination on it. But we have. If you take anything, there's a lot you should take from today's announcement, but one of the things is the level of cooperation and engagement and the focus on making progress and getting things done. So we'll move on things. But I don't know, Premier, did you want to say anything?
Next question. Prochaine question.
Let the Premier.
Sorry.
Well, we just look forward to continuing building transit, as this announcement was about, building GO 2.0. That's what we're focused on today. Our approach with the airport is collaborate with the federal government and the city and ourselves, and bring a great opportunity to the city of Toronto. That's well overdue.
Again, no, yes or no, it's a good idea from the Prime Minister. He just acknowledged that it's happening and they're going to have to get involved at some point. Very, very strange. I don't know why the Prime Minister won't comment on this. It's the biggest city in the country. We have 2 airports. Well, really, we've got 1 and a third. Does he think it's a good idea to make that third a half? I don't know. I don't know why he can't answer that question.
Ever wonder how to make hosting look effortless? Here's a secret. Getting ahead of the mess with new Reynolds Kitchens countertop prep paper. Just lightly wet the counter beforehand so the paper grips and stays in place. Then lay down the Reynolds Kitchens countertop prep paper so drips and spills stay on the paper, not all over your kitchen counter. You can roll out dough, prep a party spread, or cook alongside family. When you're done, cleanup is as simple as lifting the paper and revealing that clean counter underneath. Effortless. You can use it for cooking and baking prep and even crafting, especially when you need extra working space. Because when the mess is already handled, you can focus on what matters: the food, the people, and the moment. It may look effortless, but now you know it's Reynolds Kitchens countertop prep paper. Take a tip from me: wet it, set it, prep it, done. Make it easy. Make it with Reynolds Kitchens countertop prep paper. Available now in the Reynolds Wrap aisle in Walmart.
For the Prime Minister, it's Siobhan Morris, CTV News. What consequences, if any, will Michael Ma face for his dismissal of forced labor in China?
Well, thanks for the question. The first thing is that Mr. Ma has apologized for his comments, as he should have. He's recognized the seriousness of the issue in that apology. So the first is to recognize up front the seriousness of the issue. He does. He's apologized. He apologized directly to Ms. McQuaig Johnson as well, but then more broadly about the issue. First point. Second is that, we take this issue of forced labor, child labor, incredibly seriously. Canada has the most rigorous set of engagements on the issue, both in terms of international accords, all 8 relevant conventions of the International Labour Organization, the OECD, the United Nations, embedding provisions in all our free trade agreements as well. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to fight on that. And then the domestic legislation, from the Tariff Act to the Supply Chain Act to the requirements under the Xinjiang disclosure requirements that are on businesses as well. And what we need to do, if I may, and then I'll hand back, is that we're continually reviewing both the adequacy of that. It's amongst the most rigorous, if not the most rigorous, but also compliance and enforcement mechanisms that are in place. Adequacy of funding. We just put another $600 million into CBSA, for example, can provide more, and ensuring that we don't just have the standards, but we're enforcing the standards and businesses are following. Thank you.
That's a fascinating comment there from the Prime Minister, because he refused to say if he agrees with Michael Ma. Michael Ma, the floor crosser that left the Conservatives to go to the Liberals, as you may have heard last week, I had some pretty good coverage on this, including the actual audio right after it happened. Michael Ma, questioning an expert witness at a committee hearing, tried to suggest that if this expert hadn't actually seen it with her own eyes, then maybe there's not forced labor happening in China. It's a long-standing position of the Canadian government that there is forced labor happening in China. Here's the issue. Mark Carney really wants to align Canada with China. He does not want the Canada-US relationship anymore. He wants the Canada-China relationship, and we can only assume the reasons. In order to do that, Beijing does not want to be upstaged. Beijing does not want negative publicity. They do not want to be called out on foreign soil for what's happening in their country. So they're not going to tolerate Canadian politicians calling out China for having forced labor. And the Prime Minister is being very careful to not do that. But just because China doesn't want it doesn't mean that we have to be silent about this. You know, one of the things Canada used to be very, very good at was upholding a record on human rights. We would support it everywhere. And where there were human rights abuses, we would call it out. Doesn't seem we're going to do that anymore if it's a country we want to do business with. There's a number of countries that have some pretty serious accusations against them that Canada, in the past, as a matter of policy, has shunned. Now we want to do business with them, so we're going to look the other way on all of the irritants. And I'm talking in particular India and China. I get that we want to do business with them. Understood. But can we continue to ignore what's going on in those countries and what those countries are doing in our country because we want to do business with them? And is that the best strategy at all? You know, there's still a lot of people that think we should really just fix this with America because we are trying to get into bed with a lot of countries that in the past we never would have, not in this way anyway, not calling out human rights abuses, forced labor, and what have you, interference in our elections, not calling out them running secret police stations on our soil, not calling out assassinations on our soil. We're just completely betraying all of our values. And are we willing to do that as a country? Are we okay shedding that national identity? I guess we'll find out, and I guess it's kind of up to the Prime Minister.
Hi, Prime Minister. Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. To follow on that question, anyone who watched that clip in committee saw his scrum with CBC after, saw one version of his comments, and then he released a statement. How is the public supposed to believe that statement is at all genuine? And are you still attending the fundraiser with him this evening?
Two things. First is Mr. Ma has apologized for his comments and directly and unequivocally recognized the seriousness of the issue, continues to be a member of our caucus, and I'll continue to work with him, including in the issue that you referenced in the second part of your question. This is a government event, though, so I don't want to speak about party-specific things around fundraising. Thank you.
That's a complete and total cop-out. There's absolutely no reason he couldn't answer a direct question from the media about whether or not, with all of this scandal surrounding Michael Ma, he was still going to attend a fundraiser. And by the way, he did. Last night, there was a fundraiser that Michael Ma put on for Prime Minister Carney, and Prime Minister Carney went. They raised thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for the Liberal Party last night. Why won't Prime Minister Carney take a principled stance and say what Michael Ma said was wrong? It is completely contrary to Canadian policy, what he said. You know, if he does or doesn't fire him, that's up to him. But the Prime Minister should absolutely call it out. Fluffing it off as, well, he's in the caucus, we'll continue to work with him, he apologized, everything is fine. No, it's not fine. This is a serious issue, Prime Minister. You need to take a stance on this. And you know what? I think now the Prime Minister is obligated, given that he's been so evasive here, to tell us what he thinks about whether or not there's forced labor in China and whether or not Canada should continue to look the other way on that. Or if we should, as we always have, call it out.
Hi, Prime Minister. Lorenda Redekop with CBC News. Another follow on China. Your finance minister is going there next week to finalize some deals. Will forced labor be one of the things he will discuss when he's there?
Well, yes, technically I think it might be this week, but he's going there following on with the financial economic dialogue, which was part of our discussions when I was there in January, that we would have a regular dialogue around a series of economic and financial issues. Issues of supply chain integrity, including forced labor, child labor, and ensuring that those standards are in place, will be part of those discussions, I'm certain, and ensuring that we have the adequate transparency for any good from any of our trade partners. I mean, we recognize that this is a global issue that we need to be vigilant on and not assume that certain countries, that it's not an issue in certain countries, including in certain developed countries, and that's why we need the comprehensive aspect. So yes, would be part of the discussions, as it is in other situations where we're developing trade, and after we've developed the trade agreements.
Just a total word salad. What do we stand for in Canada? Like, let me give you an example. There's certain things that are just part of our national identity. Are we still a peacekeeping nation? Because when I was growing up, that was a real source of pride. Canada's not a war country. We're a peacekeeping country. And after a conflict, Canada will go in and we will make sure that both sides mind their manners. That's what we did, and we saved lives around the world. That was something that Canada could wear as a badge of honor. That was our contribution to the world. We were a peacekeeping nation. Are we still that? Are we still a country that calls out human rights abuses? For Mark Carney to say, well, you know, it's a global issue, you know, not just a Chinese issue. So, yeah, we're going to be vigilant against forced labor around the world. That's not enough. It was his member of parliament that brought this up. And again, that is contrary to years worth of Canadian foreign policy. He brought it up. For the Prime Minister to fluff it off as, well, he apologized, it's fine. It's not fine. And by the way, it's a huge hypocrisy. It's a double standard. You bet your butt that if a conservative had said that, the Liberals would be protesting in the middle of the streets demanding a resignation. They would burn down buildings and shut down every major road in the country until somebody got fired if it had been a conservative that said that. But we're in an interesting political climate right now. We've got some by-elections coming up, and you can tell that the Prime Minister does not want to upset China in any way and get called out, at least not until after these by-elections. Speaking of by-elections, there's one coming up in Quebec, Terrebonne. A lot of people feel that because of that specific by-election, the CEO of Air Canada had to step down. There's no shortage of people in the federal government that were basically calling for the CEO to lose his job because he offered his condolence message only in English, calling him out because he can't speak French. And by the way, full disclosure, I believe that if you're the CEO of a major national corporation, you should be able to communicate in both official languages. But he couldn't. He wasn't comfortable conveying that message in French. He wasn't sure that it would come off in an authentic way, so he didn't do it in French. He only did it in English. Well, the federal government piled on that guy. Why would they do that? Not that they don't like him. Not that he didn't do a good job for Air Canada. They piled on because they want to make it seem like they're the defenders of the French language, especially with the by-election coming up in Quebec. That was the only reason. I'm going to do one more from the Q&A. Then I've got an update on how negotiations are going between Canada and the USA.
Prime Minister Liam Casey with the Canadian Press. A little hard to hear you back there, but wondering if you believe that there is forced labor in China? Do you believe there is forced labor in China?
Just in case it was hard to hear, I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to answer your question in a second, but I'm going to repeat the main element of today's announcement: $8.8 billion partnership Ontario and Government of Canada, City working alongside, up to $200,000 off taxes and development fees for homes in Ontario for people getting onto the housing ladder, plus all of the major infrastructure being built in huge levels in consistent partnership. In terms of, look, I followed this issue over the years in China and elsewhere. And there is evidence of child labor around the world. There's evidence and there's existence, I should say, of child labor and forced labor around the world. There is a absolute requirement for companies, and I'll put it there first, to know who their suppliers are, the conditions of their suppliers. They have a reporting obligation here in Canada, public reporting obligation here in Canada for their supply chains. They have to comply with our laws, which obviously, to simplify them, are against any element of forced or child labor in any element of the supply chain of goods that are imported into this country. And China, there are parts of China that are higher risk and therefore need to be diligent, yes.
Higher risk? This is, let me just tell you how it seems to me. It seems that, again, the Prime Minister wants Canada closely aligned with China, which also closely aligns with many of his personal business interests. And that's just a fact. It's true. You can't deny that. So the Prime Minister wants us aligned with China, and there's a lot of people that feel that this is not a customer business relationship. It's not like China wants things from us and we're going to sell it to them, and we want things from them, so we're going to buy it from them. That's not what this is. This is a boss-employee relationship. The boss is China, and the boss has said, you are not going to embarrass us ever again. You are not going to call us out for whatever you think is wrong. Whether it be human rights abuses, whether it be forced labor, child labor, you name it, you are not going to call us out for that. We do not want negative publicity in your country. Full stop. And the Prime Minister's just going along with it. You heard numerous questions, and credit to the media, the reporters who were there. They tried to get an answer out of the Prime Minister. We're now, 20 minutes into this news conference here, and I still don't know what Canada's position is on what Michael Ma said and what our position on China is anymore. It's sad. It feels like we're compromising on our morals and our values here, but that's where we're at. Let's get a quick update here on how negotiations are going between Canada and the USA. Yesterday, the person in charge of negotiating with the Americans, Dominic LeBlanc, did a media availability. This is about a minute and a half long.
We concluded what I think was a very productive meeting of internal trade ministers. We received instructions from First Ministers at the end of January to make progress, particularly around the mutual recognition, expanding mutual recognition. We agreed to do so today with respect to services. Again, labor mobility is a constant challenge, particularly with respect to skilled trades, important for the housing construction sector, building big national projects. Again, we made significant progress. We have made precise commitments to achieve specific results for Canadians over the next number of months, including in direct-to-consumer sales of alcohol as another example where provinces and territories have committed to very short timelines to achieve something that will be important for all Canadians. This is an opportunity to take control of economic circumstances in our own country. It responds, as the Prime Minister has said many times, to threats from other countries in terms of our economic resiliency. So I was super happy that my provincial and territorial colleagues were present here in Ottawa. Some had to leave for airplanes. A couple of colleagues may cut out for flights. Our colleagues from Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
Okay, I'm going to pause this, and maybe I even played the wrong clip. Maybe it's labeled wrong here. I'm not 100% sure, but either way, Dominic LeBlanc here talking about basic stuff, tearing down interprovincial trade barriers. Remember, make ourselves our own best customer. It was supposed to be done by last Canada Day. That's Canada Day 2025. Have all the interprovincial trade barriers taken down, and we're still squabbling over whether or not you can buy booze from a different province and have it shipped to your house. What a joke. Like, come on. This is not what we were promised. This is not the speed and scale like we've never seen before. How is this still a thing? Truly, if all of the premiers are on the same page that we need to rip down all of the interprovincial trade barriers, then rip them down. What are you waiting for? There's nothing to negotiate. Just take them down. Full stop. This might be the Dominic LeBlanc clip I was looking for.
Minister, your story seems to be everything's normal. Like, this is all normal. But Trump cuts us off. You're kind of engaged with Washington, but you're not public about it at all. And it feels like the Mexicans are way ahead. That's what Canadians see anyway. If I understand you correctly, none of that is true. Everything is moving along swimmingly. Don't worry. There's a lot at stake, though, right? People are worried. Am I wrong?
I mean, Graham, I would never purport to tell a senior national journalist that you're wrong. Far be it from me to correct a senior national journalist. To ask the question, you've categorized it in a very simplistic or a very blunt way. I don't share that simplistic conclusion. You chose a bunch of words that weren't mine.
Well, it was a characterization of the tone.
Sure, and my view is that the conversations with U.S. counterparts remain productive and we remain engaged. That is different than October. We have said all along that there will be bilateral conversations between Mexico and the United States, between Canada and the United States. There are some different issues that Mexico and Canada will want to address with the Americans. I spend a lot of time with the Mexican economy minister. Secretary Ebrard was, of course, as you know, in Mexico with a number of colleagues. So I remain also in conversations, very easy, open conversations with him. And they are resolving in their national interest or advancing in their national interest their conversations. We'll do exactly the same thing. Who is ahead at what particular moment in time isn't as interesting as ensuring that Canada gets to the conclusion in a way that's important for Canadian workers, because a lot is at stake. There's something I completely agree with you on, and that's why I think Canadians should be confident that the government is very much engaged in this file.
Do you have a lot of confidence? I mean, you just heard the guy in charge of talking. He was asked a very pointed but fair question by, I believe that was that Glenn, CTV? Okay. He was asked a fair question. You say everything's going great, but it seems like nothing is going on. So which is it? Well, first off, he was very defensive about the question. And second off, did he say anything there that makes you think this is going well? I don't know, guys. I'm not sure where we're at, but it really seems like we're far more interested in preserving this relationship with the Chinese government than we are with the American government. And you can feel however you want to feel about that, but that's probably a fair assertion of where we're at. Before I go, this is big, and I didn't expect it to happen this soon, but it did. As of yesterday, the 177,000 required signatures has been reached. Alberta independence will go to a referendum on October the 19th. That's right. October 19th, a Canadian province is going to decide if they want to separate from Canada. That's where we're at. Alberta got enough signatures to have an independence vote October 19th. Wow. And you know what? There's a lot of reason to think Quebec may be having a referendum shortly after that as well. We'll have to wait and see. I want to thank everybody who reached out about the episode that I posted on Sunday morning with a good friend of mine. AJ Sosa is his pen name. He is an author, and he wrote a brand new sci-fi book about not just intergalactic enemies, but how those intergalactic enemies, how they attack us. He got the inspiration for it from his dad's battle with cancer. The book is called Earth Wars, and Joe was on with me the other day, Sunday. If you didn't hear that episode, it dropped on the weekend. Really interesting conversation, not just about his book, but also about how anyone can write a book and get it published. Also about his recent trip to Ukraine. He had some interesting insight there. If you missed that, or if you want something else to listen to today, go back and check out Sunday's episode. It was my interview with author AJ Sosa. Friends, I'll have another episode for you tomorrow. There's a lot going on today and for the rest of the week. And as these things unfold, I get a new show together for you every single day. You can count on me for a lot more context and clarity than you're getting from the mainstream media. Long form clips so you can hear the newsmakers in their own words. And tomorrow, I'm also going to be talking more about the Artemis II mission, getting ready to take off to the dark side of the moon. So exciting. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll catch you right back here for a new episode in less than 24 hours.
Oh, yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Oh, yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh, yeah, look at my life out here on the road.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.